There are no problems. There are no problems. There never were any problems. There are no problems today, and there will never be any problems. Problems just mean that the world isn't turning the way you want it to. But in truth, there are no problems. Everything is unfolding as it should. Everything is right. You have to forget about yourself and expand your consciousness until you become the whole universe. The reality in back of the universe is pure awareness. It has no problems, and you are that. If you identify with your body, then there's a problem, because your body always gets into trouble of some kind. But if you learn to forget about your body and your mind, where is there a problem? In other words, leave your body alone. Take just enough care of it. Exercise it a little. Feed it right foods. But don't think about it too much. Keep your mind on reality. Merge your mind with reality, and you will experience reality. You will live in a world without problems. The world may appear to have problems to others, but not to you. You will see things differently, from a higher point of view. I had an interesting phone call this week. Someone asked me, do self-realized people dream or have visions? Now, in order to have a dream or a vision, there has to be somebody left to have it. And yet, if you're self-realized, there's nobody home. There's nobody left. So it's a contradiction, as truth is. All truth is a contradiction. It's a paradox. The answer is, sages do dream sometimes and have visions, but they're aware of the dreamer. In other words, they realize that they are not the person dreaming or having the vision. But as long as there's a body there someplace, there will be dreams and visions. Even though there's no one home, there will still, once in a while, be a dream or a vision. As an example, Ramana Maharshi often dreamt and had visions. Nisargadatta dreamt and had visions. And they were both self-realized. But again, the question is, who dreams? Who has the vision? There's no ego left, as long as the dreamer is separate from the I. I can only speak from my own experience. There's no difference to me in the waking state, the dreaming state, the sleeping state, or the vision state. They're all the same. I'm aware of all of them, but I am not them. I observe them. I see them happening. As a matter of fact, sometimes I don't know the difference. Sometimes I don't know whether I'm dreaming, or awake, or having a vision, or I'm asleep. It's all the same, because I take a step backward, and I watch myself going through all these things. So for some reason lately, I've been dreaming about the Queen of England. She was coming to satsang. I don't know why, for about 3 nights in a row. But I did have an interesting vision this morning at about 4 o'clock, and we'll spend the rest of the time discussing them because I found it very interesting. As many of you know, I've had a constant vision periodically of myself going to Arunachala, the sacred mountain where Ramana Maharshi lived. And the mountain is hollow in the vision. And I go through the mountain to the center where there's a bright light, 1,000 times more brighter than the sun, but yet it's pleasing and calm, and there's no heat. And then I meet Ramana, Jesus, Ramakrishna, Nisargadatta, Lao Tse, and others. And we smile at each other, we walk toward each other, and melt into one light, and become one. Then there's a blinding light, and an explosion, sort of. And then I open my eyes. I've shared that with you before, but this morning for the first time I had a very interesting vision, which I'll share with you again. I dreamt I was somewhere in an open field, beautiful field. There was a lake nearby, trees, a forest, and I was sitting under a tree in this open field, and I had on the orange garb of a renunciate. I must have been Buddhist. All of a sudden, hundreds of bodhisattvas and mahasattvas come from the forest and start walking toward me, and they all sit down in a semicircle around me in meditation, and I wondered what I was doing. Then I realized that I had become the Buddha, and we all sat in silence for about 3 hours. Then one of the bodhisattvas got up and asked a question. He said, "Master, what is your teaching?" It was not in English. I don't know what language he spoke, but I understood quite clearly. And without hesitation, I said, "I teach self-realization of noble wisdom." And he sat down. We sat for about another 3 hours in silence, and then another bodhisattva got up and asked a question. "Master, how can you tell when one is close to self-realization? How can you tell when one is about to become self-realized? How does one tell?" And this is what I'd like to discuss today. How can we tell if we're on the path correctly? I gave 4 principles, which I really never do in the waking state. I never have a teaching, but I was giving a teaching, so I'll share it with you. I explained 4 principles where you know that you're close to self-realization. Of course, we're all self-realized already. Principle number 1. You have a feeling, complete understanding that everything you see, everything in the universe, in the world, emanates from your mind. In other words, you feel this. You do not have to think about it or try to bring it on. It comes by itself. It becomes a part of you. The realization that everything that you see, the universe, people, worms, insects, the mineral kingdom, the vegetable kingdom, your body, your mind, everything that appears is a manifestation of your mind. You have to have that feeling, that deep understanding without trying to. So you ask yourself, what do I think about all day long? Of course, if you fear something, if you worry, if you believe something is wrong somewhere, if you think you're suffering from lack or limitation or sickness or anything, then you're out of it completely, because you're not understanding that all these things are simply a manifestation of your own mind. And if you worry about these things, you become attached to false imagination. It's called false imagination. You've been attached to habit energy for many years, and all these attachments and beliefs come from habit energy. It's like watching a TV show and becoming one of the characters when you know that you're not even in the TV, but you believe you're one of the characters in the TV show. So it is with the world. Do not get involved. I don't mean you become passive. I mean your body does what it's supposed to do. Remember, your body came to this earth to do something. It'll do something without your knowledge. It'll take care of itself, don't worry. But do not identify your body with yourself. They're different. Your body is not yourself. And I'll prove this. When you refer to your body, what do you say? Don't you say, "my body"? Who is this "my" you're referring to? You say, "my finger," "my eye." Who are you referring to? You could be talking about your body because you're saying it's my body like you own it. Who owns it? This proves to yourself that you're not your body. So do not identify yourself with the body and the world. Therefore, the first principle, to see how close you are to self-realization, is you are not feeling that you are identifying with the world. You're separate, and you're feeling happiness, because your natural state is pure happiness. Once you identify with worldly things, you spoil it. The happiness disappears, it dissipates. But when you're separate from worldly things, happiness is automatic, beautiful, pure happiness. It comes by itself. So that's the first principle. The second principle I explained to the bodhisattvas was this. You have to have a strong feeling, a deep realization that you are unborn. You are not born, you do not experience a life, and you do not disappear, you do not die. You are not born, you have no life, and you do not die. You have to feel this, that you are of the unborn. Do you realize what this means? There is no cause for your existence. There is no cause for your suffering. There is no cause for your problems. Some of you still believe in cause and effect. This is true in the relative world, but in the world of reality, there is no cause. Nothing has ever been made. Nothing has ever been created. There is no creation. I know it's hard to comprehend. How do I exist if I was not born? I have no life, and I do not disappear in old age. You exist, as I am. You have always existed, and you will always exist. You exist as pure intelligence, as absolute reality. That is your true nature. You exist as Sat Chit Ananda. You exist as bliss consciousness, but you do exist. You exist as emptiness, as nirvana, but you do exist. So don't worry about being non-existent. But you do not exist as the body. You do not exist as person, place, or thing. Do you feel that? If you have a strong feeling about that, then you're close to self-realization. Principle number 3. You are aware, and you have a deep understanding of the egolessness of all things, that everything has no ego. I'm not only speaking of sentient beings, I'm speaking of the mineral kingdom, the vegetable kingdom, the animal kingdom, the human kingdom. Nothing has an ego. And do you realize what this means? It means that everything is sacred. Everything is God. Only when the ego comes does God disappear, what we call God. Everything becomes God. You have reverence for everything. When there is no ego, you have reverence for everybody and everything. So you have to be aware of the egolessness of all things. Animals have no ego, minerals have no ego, vegetables have no ego, and humans have no ego. There is no cause, so there cannot be an effect. There is only divine consciousness, and everything becomes divine consciousness. So if you look at your fellow man and animals and everything else as being egolessness, you will see them as yourself. Can't you see that? It's the ego that causes separation. When I am full of ego, I become strong within myself. I become totally separate. So the more you like yourself as a person, the bigger your ego is. You say, well, I'm not supposed to like myself. You're supposed to love yourself. But what self are we talking about? We're not talking about your body self, because that comes and goes. We're talking about your permanent self that has always been here. And your permanent self is me, is you, is the world, is the universe, is everything. That's your permanent self, egolessness. That's the only time that you can love your fellow human beings, when you have no ego. That's how you can tell where you're at, if you're close to self-realization. That's principle number 3. Principle number 4 is simply this. You have a deep conviction, a deep understanding, a deep feeling of what self-realization of noble wisdom really is. What is self-realization of noble wisdom to you? You can never know by trying to find out what it is, because it's absolute reality. You can only know by finding out what it is not. So you say, it is not my body. It is not my mind. It is not my organs. It is not my thoughts. It is not my world. It is not my universe. It is not the animals or the trees or the moon or the sun or the stars. It is not any of those things. When you've gone through everything and there's nothing left, that's what it is. Nothing. Emptiness. Nirvana. Ultimate oneness.